to me, this was a very strange sidebar, you know, in some ways a real distraction from my work. You know, at one point, when we found out it was Tom, I said publicly, I wonder how many hours I've put into this, and how many collective hours we've all put into this that would have otherwise been spent on focusing on actual revolutionaries and actual coverage, and fact-checking and debunking. And, I mean, now granted, I think this was something we had to do, but we only had to do it because he put us through this.
So what's interesting is that, certainly for the three of us who've all written at some length about the Amina situation on our own blogs, I think we've all gotten commentary from one or perhaps many people essentially defending McMaster's act of civic fiction, and essentially saying, the good news is to get people to pay attention to a situation in Syria that they would have ignored otherwise. It put it in the news, it got lots of press attention. When McMaster did a second round of interviews, he basically said, look, I've been doing this for a while because I feel like I, you know, as a disempowered white man, can't find a way to participate equitably in conversations about the Middle East because people see my identity and assume that I'm marginal. Whereas, you know, when I speak as a Syrian lesbian, people take me much more seriously. So for me, the question that actually sort of arises here is, we've got two very different examples of civic fiction, right? And I think on the surface, the simplest example is that I don't think anyone believed that you were Mayor Emanuel. I think that would have been a very different situation, whereas people did believe in Amina, at least for some point of this, in no small part, because as Andy's just outlined, when you're working in some of these media environments, you have to assume that there is some layer of fictionalization in all this.
So it reminds me, I forgot to tell the story about how the Guardian got into this mess.
Please.
When I started tweeting, asking people if anyone had met her, several people tweeted back to me and said, well, the Guardian did that interview a while back. They met her in person. So I contacted the managing editor there that I knew, and I just said, can you confirm you met her in person? How did that work? And they wrote me back and said, yes, our reporter did, but I'll double check. A few hours later, I heard back, and he included an email from the reporter. And I don't know if it's a he or a she, because the reporter is also working underneath cover there, and it goes under the name Catherine Marsh.
Big lesbians all the way down.
Exactly. So what she said in the email was, we did a pre-interview via email over a couple of days, and Amina had agreed to meet her in person at some cafe or something the next day. Amina sent her an email that said, please meet me here. Here's a photo of me so you know how to find me. I'll see you there. The reporter shows up and waits. No one shows up. So she goes back online, back at her office or home or whatever, and says, what the hell, you didn't show up? And in a panic, Amina responds via email saying, I was followed by state security. They were going to arrest me. They could have arrested you. I'm sorry, I just can't do this interview with you. And the reporter essentially said, well, I think I've got enough. Maybe I'll ask you a couple more questions via email. The photo that Amina sent her was the photo of the Croatian woman. So even back then, she was using this to play reporters. And once the article went out in The Guardian, it then became safe enough for other news organizations to interview her because it basically vouched for her. Mm-hmm. And everyone got complacent, and she became more and more and more famous.